Thanks for stopping by for today's track guide at Long Beach with the Ferrari fixed. Just some key information about this track. It is a very dangerous track. You're surrounded by walls, and there's a need to avoid all the walls as they'll end your race very, very quickly. Got to be conservative on the braking and on the entries. Do not try to maximize the entry by braking late. That's just going to lead you to going into the wall, and you definitely don't want that. The conditions for this run are listed in the description. They are the same as the VRS conditions for the data pack, and the telemetry can be found on Garage 61. The things I'll be covering per corner are the most important things, which are the brake marker, where the apex is, and the crucial info about the corner that's necessary to go fast, that most people don't necessarily know. The brake bias for this run is set to 47.9. It's fairly aggressive brake bias towards the rear, and it's going to make the car a little bit wiggly on the rear, and you can't brake late because of that. It's more about rotating the car correctly and getting on throttle early. If you find that you can't handle that, then bump it up to about a 48.5, and if it's still kind of wiggling, then you can go up to a 49.0. But as you progress, try to work that brake bias a little bit further back. But again, you have to focus on braking early, not braking late. So let's get into it. So rounding out this straightaway into T1, we don't want to brake and turn at the same time. And that is the reason why we come away from the wall. And this is the crucial information for this corner. And try to set the car up in a trajectory to brake in a straight line without turning the steering wheel at all. This is going to give us the best braking possible, allowing us to brake late and brake appropriately and rotate the car. If we're turning here, if our car is positioned here, we are going to have to either turn midway through the threshold braking, or we're going to be braking away from the edge of the track at the turning point, which is going to make it go slower through the apex, and we don't want that. The brake marker is before the 500 board. I like to also look at where these white lines end. This white line here as a threshold, and we want to be braking as we're crossing that. The apex that we're looking for is the apex curb here. We can run completely over it or just through the middle. I like to run right through the middle here, as I find that this can sometimes upset the car and can make it a little bit more difficult to put the power down. So coming into the fountain section, the key piece of information here is that we want to open up this entry as much as possible. And that means the car needs to be as far to the right in this area as possible. Most people, as they're rounding this out, they're on full throttle the whole time. And so that leads the car usually to be here. And so then it cuts off your entry here. You can't position the car inside of this left wall. You could only really place it here. And that will make it more difficult to go to the fountain section. So in this case, as you can see with my throttle input, I get off the throttle just slightly, to maintain the car to the right. I'm trying to control the car a little bit better so that now I can brake into this gap much more effectively and open up this corner. Hence, now I can carry a little bit more minimum apex speed, and I can get on throttle really, really early and to full throttle early without risking hitting this wall or getting on traction control, and without a little lift. Most people need to do a little lift here. They get on throttle and then they do a small lift to settle the rear down a little bit and get the car back to the left. So that's the secret to doing that. And the apex is right there. You basically want to be grazing this raised asphalt curb here on the right hand side. Coming into this next corner, the brake marker is this white line, this little dip that's here on on the left hand side. And we want to be braking early and softly and getting all the way up to the edge of the wall. That's really important. If you're off the edge of the wall, then you just cannot carry the same amount of speed that somebody who's right next to the wall. So get comfortable being close to these walls. It's actually safer to be close to the wall on entry. For the apex, we want to be running over this curb, not completely, as you can see. We want to avoid this raised part, as this can unsettle the car a little bit, and it's just easier to put the power down when it doesn't get unsettled like that. And the car should naturally want to go to the wall, all the way to the wall on full throttle. You shouldn't really be steering to the left, to the wall. If you are, you know you didn't carry enough speed through the last corner. Brake marker for this following corner, we're looking for this change in pigmentation and color and shade of the asphalt here. As you can see, this is a lighter gray, there's a darker gray, and in this transition is when we want to be on the brakes. And again, the key here is soft, early brake, stay on the wall as long as possible, and then jump over these anti-cut curbs. If you jump over more than this to the right hand side, the rear will be unsettled. Now, the crucial part about how to jump these is that you need to get on throttle just as you're about to jump over them, because that picks up the nose a little bit of the car and allows it to just more comfortably jump over these without being unsettled. If you just coast over them, the car more than likely will bottom out and it will send the rear spinning to the left, and you do not want that. And again, the car should naturally go to the left hand side. There are two options here for this corner. You can either brake alongside this wall, or you can brake in a straight line following this yellow line into this pocket here in the wall. If you brake into this pocket, you can be closer to the edge of the track and get a little bit wider entry and probably maximize apex speed. However, it's more difficult, and it's more dangerous because you can hit this protruding wall here. Brake marker, we're looking for the 300 board or this Firestone sign here, the red one on the it's very visible when you're driving by, and just braking right before it. Braking into that pocket, nice turn in, and early throttle. Apex is going to be running over this curb and grazing this edge of the concrete barrier as much as possible. Trickiest corner coming up here, and the reason I say it's the trickiest is because although it seems so simple, something about the grip levels in this corner and the bumps really make the car understeer. So if you brake late here, very good chance you're going into that wall there. And this is probably the corner that claims the most amount of cars during a race. We're going to brake in between the 200 and 300 board, ideally around the 270-ish. You can brake at the 250, but there is that risk. And it's better be safe, in my opinion. Be conservative, brake early, fairly soft, and just focus on a good release here and just rotating the car early so that you can get on throttle early and graze this concrete barrier and get the car to the left hand side naturally. Coming up to the sweeping right hander here, we're going to brake before the 400 board, and we're going to brake into this pocket. We're going to brake diagonally into that pocket. You can brake alongside this wall, but then that means you're not going to be at the edge of the track for the turn-in. So it's really important to just trajectory in a straight line into this pocket that's created at the 200 board and get a nice turn-in as you reach that pocket. Jumping over these curbs, naturally the car goes left. We try to get the car back to the right as much as we can. We're not going to be able to get all the way to the wall. Somewhere in the middle of the track is where we're going to be able to achieve. If you can get more than the right hand side of the track, that means that you are not carrying enough speed through the corner before it. And peripheral vision, you want to be looking out for these red boards, because this is going to be our brake marker in between these four red boards right in the middle. That's kind of where you want to be braking. And you want to be braking softly, because this corner is all about just maintaining minimum speed without letting the car drift out wide, right? And you're playing around with the throttle, just kind of getting the car to rotate a little bit on throttle. But the overall goal is to get the car to navigate and be in a trajectory so that it can be straight for braking around this part, and so that you have good control of the car so you can place it as left as possible to open up the hairpin. That is the crucial part for the hairpin. The more you open it up, the more time you're going to gain. If you narrow it out, then you're going to lose time. And you want to be running over these anti-cuts, not completely, but just slightly over through here. You could probably run a little bit more on them. But the key thing is to be able to bring the car back to the left here. Not completely all the way into this gap. It's not necessary. You sacrifice too much speed to get into here. And you don't want to be braking deep and coming around here and trying to come V-shape this. It's not the best approach because you're not going to get that time back. You have to overslow the car down too much. So you want to be braking early and get the car turned in and just grazing this curb or running over just this little bit left, this little bit that protrudes out. And the second key information for this corner is you have to be very, very progressive with the throttle, especially after you reach the 60%, because the car really wants to rotate and traction control kicks in, and you can lose probably a tenth, maybe a tenth and a half, just on the traction control kicking in. So be very patient with the throttle. Make sure the rear's settled, and once it's settled, you want to get to 100% throttle. So a very short lap here at Long Beach, but very difficult and very dangerous with all the walls surrounding you. But if you remember that slow in, fast out is what you want to do here, then I know that you'll be able to net the lap times that you were looking for. But you have to be patient and you have to drive it conservatively. But appreciate you stopping by. Follow me on Twitch at BorisAngel for streams on weeknights. And I look forward to doing some more track guides in the future.